As I mentioned in a few earlier videos, in the 70s, British Rail were going through some rather large problems. Steam had been banned. The diesel engines that replaced them were better than some of the earlier designs, but they were not the uniform engines British Rail wanted on their fleet, and the new and modern motorways and the desirability of families owning their own cars were threatening British Rail's pockets. British Rail needed faster expresses that were affordable, and even the new Deltics were simply not going to cut it. Ultimately, British Rail wanted electrification. They knew that in order to pull the passengers back and to reach the desired speeds to rival the roads, it would be desperately needed, but electrification would be expensive and covering the entire network was simply too costly. Once again, British Rail turned to their development team in Derby, who had just completed the trials for the advanced passenger train. The trial didn't go well. While the train did achieve the speeds British Rail wanted, the tilting mechanism was causing concern and was jamming at high speeds. Passengers were literally getting sick with the constant swaying, and the unions were less than happy with a single seat for the lone driver. The railway development team were impressed with the Deltic Class 55. Its relatively good speed, coupled with its low axle weight, lent it to be a great engine on the East Coast Main Line, and it also helped prevent the trackbed from being damaged. They also wanted to incorporate these features into a new type of locomotive. Following successful prototypes developed by Terry Miller, the first power car was produced in 1975. Each power car carried a Paxman Valentia engine, a V12 4-stroke turbocharged intercooled diesel. With two engines on either end of the train, the total horsepower was nearing 5,000. These engines were changed though over the years. British Rail approached legendary designer Sir Kenneth Grange for the new engine's livery. Kenneth was synonymous with design, having designed many household items such as Kodak cameras and the Kenwood chef food mixer. British Rail just asked him for a simple paint job, but Kenneth considered the diesels as ugly things with big noses. He wanted to make the new engines iconic, so without telling a soul, he redesigned the engines from the ground up. He started at the nose. Kenneth asked the chief engineer, "What do the front buffers do?" When the engineer replied that the buffers were not really needed, Kenneth removed them and it gave him the room for his new look. The engine can still be coupled from the front, but this was hidden away and an emergency drawbar was kept in the cab should the engine need to be rescued by a standard engine. He also considered safety. Kenneth wanted to put in an armoured windshield after hearing of incidents of drivers being killed from some who were deliberately trying to hit the engines with stones or hanging stones from bridges. After the unions were in agreement that the cab should be manned by more than one person, Kenneth needed to make the windshield bigger, but due to the windshield's properties, he was nearly forced to use two pieces, which would have laid flat with a truck structural support in the middle, spoiling his design. Luckily, a new type of glass was developed which kept the structural integrity of the armoured glass, but could be made as a single piece Kenneth wanted. Next came the body. Kenneth did something completely groundbreaking and decided to ditch the metal sheet cladding in favour of glass reinforced plastic. The moulded plastic would allow for Kenneth to make any design he wanted. Gaining inspiration from racing cars and getting advice from an aerodynamic engineer, Kenneth designed the wedge shape we all know. It worked well in wind tunnels. British Rail were very impressed with the results. Kenneth didn't just stop with just the engine, he wanted to design the coaches too. The original seating was ripped out in place of moulded lighter seating with stronger fabrics resistant to damage. It was ironically the first train to have central locking, and of course Kenneth wanted to give the engine a unique livery including its yellow nose, its warning to others that I'm a bloody big fast thing, to get out of my way. The first set of power cars were delivered in late 1975 and straight away it made a massive impact, breaking the speed record for rail diesel traction. The passengers couldn't wait to travel on these new fast trains, and passenger numbers rose rapidly. Many commuters realised this was a brilliant opportunity to be able to live further away from the city, with some taking advantage of the facilities and even being able to work from the train. This in turn caused more frequent services, and they even took over the famous Flying Scotsman run on the East Coast Main Line. Out of the entire fleet, the Intercity has boasted the most numerous pet nicknames and the most liveries out of any class, and for many years the Intercity held the railway nation's hearts. In 2019, a new type of engine, the 800, the 801 and the 802 class, were introduced to the tracks, and the Great Western Railway was one of the first to put the Intercity 125 into retirement, with the LNER following suit. At the time of writing, East Midland Railway are retiring its own fleet, with power car 43102 being repainted back into its livery that it sported when she broke the speed record. It's not all doom and gloom for the Intercity. Sir Kenneth Grange and 43102 have both been preserved for the nation. Sir Kenneth has already settled into its new home at the National Railway Museum after being reunited with its namesake on its preservation. 43102 is set to join her after her final run on the East Midland Railway. Network Rail have also helped preserve the Intercity as well. They have purchased 6 power cars and a set of Mark III coaches and outfitted them with a rake of measurement tools designed to measure the interaction between the train and the track. The coaches and power cars were painted in a distinct yellow livery, earning it the affectionate nickname of the Flying Banana. Even though the Intercity is steadily getting retired, it'll be several years before we see the trains leave the track. When that happens, I'm sure the final train will be one of fond memories and a sad farewell. The Intercity went above and beyond what anyone expected, and we have a lot to thank both it and of course its unique designer, Sir Kenneth Grange, a marvellous designer for a marvellous machine.